Good afternoon, everyone. President-elect Elaine Houlihan, Minister, members of the Dáil, Senators, Madam Chairperson of the Board in Mockra, Michael Burkery, Chairperson of FBD, Assistant Sec-General Sinead McPhillips, distinguished guests, land mobility users, ladies and gentlemen. I am a firm believer in using all the tools at our availability to leverage generation renewal. Initiatives such as the Land Mobility Service are crucial. The need to have an agile and fit-for-purpose land mobility service will be critically important over the next decade and beyond. Not my words, ladies and gentlemen, but those of our Minister for Agriculture, Charlie McConalogue, during his address at Mockra's National Conference in 2021. And I have to say, I couldn't echo those words wholeheartedly enough. I must also acknowledge the Minister's work and commitment to the Land Mobility Service and the increased funding of €100,000 for 2022, which he promised in 2021, and also the commitment to deliver the same funding for 2023. I also echo the sentiments from the Minister about the land mobility's long-term role in our sector to support generation renewal. The success of the Land Mobility Service has seen the service grow from an idea around tables in the FBD Trust and the Agricultural Affairs table to a service that is recognised across the EU as a leading example of supporting and facilitating generation renewal and land transfer. The Land Mobility Service is a tried and trusted example of what can be achieved with support, hard work and ingenuity, and when all three come together. In 2022, as Austin highlighted, inquiries exceeded 1,000, with 1,080 inquiries to the service, a further 586 engagements, with some 100 arrangements. Since the service has begun, almost 1,000 arrangements have been facilitated, with greater than 75,000 acres involved. The need for the service is clear, and an IFAC report in 2021 finding that 77% of farmers over the age of 55 have no definite succession plan. With an ageing farming population and active farming, the service will need to grow and develop over the coming years, as identified by the research in UCD. Indeed, generation renewal is one of the 9 key objectives of the Common Agricultural Policy over the next 5 years. And we must acknowledge the role of former Commissioner Phil Hogan has played in bringing generation renewal to the forefront of CAP reform over the past 5 years. As noted within the research carried out by UCD in your booklet, access to land is widely regarded as the single most significant obstacle to young farmers seeking an opportunity in our agriculture sector. It is also noted, as Karina has said in the Foodwise 2025 document, that land mobility is a weakness and a potential challenge to achieving sustainability and viability in the farm business in Ireland. The EU Commissions, in its own CAP SWOT analysis, identified and called out the Irish Land Mobility Service as a blueprint for member states to follow to support farm transfer and land access for young farmers. As we stand here today, across the road from the corridors of power in Ireland, 1 in 16 farmers are under the age of 35. To put that in context of a GAA team that represents every single parish in every single county across the country, from the goalie to corner forward, all over the age of 35, every single player of the team. The first sub is under 35. Now, I'm not a betting man, but my money wouldn't be on that team to be lining out behind the marching band on county final day. The Minister has spoken about the importance of driving change in our sector, that young farmers will be the pioneers of environmental change and meeting the sustainability demands of the future. And I couldn't completely agree more that we as the future will drive the sustainability challenges, will meet the environmental ambitions, and will make the necessary changes. The question to answer, though, is who will implement these changes over the next 35 years and beyond. Will it be the 1 to 15, or will it be the first sub? Research would suggest that it will be the first sub, that youth is the pathway to progression in our sector. The facts are that almost 1/3 of the farmers are over the age of 65. For those of you into GA, that's your midfield and your half-back line, the engine room of your team. 48% of farmers, as identified, have no identified succession. Thankfully, as has been the case in our history, for 79 years Mockra has developed a solution in the form of the Land Mobility Service. I want to take this opportunity to pay huge credit to Austin, Mick, Patrick, for their dedication and time that they give to the service. The development in the service over the past number of years has been built on the back of your hard, diligent and continuous work. And I also want to thank the strategic direction of its chair, John Buckley, and former chairperson and former president of MACRA, James Healy. The service is about the people that use it, avail of it and are built within our sector. People like Dave Herity, a sheep farmer from County Mayo, like Billy and Anne McMahon, a husband and wife team who wanted to step back from farming. A person such as Linda O'Neill, who wanted to get into farming and started a farm partnership in County Waterford. People like Jeremy Hitchens, who are farming in County Wexford. And to people like Vincent and Mary McCarville, who wanted to also step back from farming. You will see these case studies, these real people, these solutions delivered in front of you within the booklet. A cross-sector of our agriculture sector, but also a cross-sample of the stories behind agriculture in Ireland. Also contained within the booklet is the UCD report entitled A Decade of Land Mobility Service, its impact and its future. It's clear from both Brian and Thomas's presentation that there are many challenges that we must meet, but also a huge amount of opportunity. And the report identifies the key recommendations that Brian and Thomas took us through. A streamlined service, collaborative partnerships, targeting and upskilling of members of staff, increasing staffing levels, and conducting further research, a nod to themselves perhaps. I want to take this opportunity at this juncture to thank Professor Karina Pearce, Assistant Professor Brian Leonard, and Assistant Professor Thomas Russell from UCD for compiling such a comprehensive and in-depth report. I also want to thank Michael Burkery from the FBD Trust, without whom the support for this event would not take place. Michael and the FBD Trust have been a constant support to the service since its inception, seeing the value that it has to Irish agriculture. Michael and the Trust have always recognised progress and supportive, constructive engagement within our sector. And on a personal note, in my final few weeks as MACRA President, I want to thank Michael and the FBD Trust Board for their support of MACRA over a long number of years, but particularly during my tenure as MACRA President. The Trust, along with our co-ops, have delivered on their promise to fund and support the service. I want to also acknowledge our co-ops who have not only supported our service, but increased their support and raised awareness within their regions. Without the support of our co-ops, and I see Paul here from Dairygold, Kevin who sits on our board from Arrivo, and Eamon from Lakelands, for their demonstration of their commitment to the service, a service which is delivering. One of the key recommendations focuses on the future, and they all nod towards the future. When we focus on the future direction of the Land Mobility Service, it's in its delivery, meeting its stated aims. And I want to take you back to the Minister's words of how critically important the Land Mobility Service will be over the next decade and beyond. A statement reaffirmed by our Minister here today, but also made at our National Conference in 2021. Minister McConalogue also committed to double the funding for the service in 2022, and I strongly recognise his continued support for the service, but also his continued support for 2023. However, I do note that in 2021, the Minister also committed to shortly engaging now with MACRA and Teagasc on reshaping the Land Mobility Service for the long term, to ensure it is robust for the future. We wait for that commitment to be delivered. Long-term growth and support will be needed to fully embed nationally the Land Mobility Service. In March 2021, MACRA also engaged heavily with the Minister, along with his advisors and officials, in supporting the Land Mobility Service from CAP funding. At the time, the recommendation from officials and advisors was to seek additional Exchequer funding as a more secure form of funding for the service to grow long term. Fast forward to our National Conference in 2022, which we were delighted to welcome the Minister and his advisors to the conference in Ballykistine in County Tipperary. The Minister once more affirmed his support for the service and committed that he and his officials would look favourably on a proposal from MACRA on increased funding for the Land Mobility Service to secure its future and its growth. Within 2 weeks, our proposal landed on the desk. 4 months later, we were informed that our proposal was too ambitious. Too ambitious. Can we remember the first sub? The Land Mobility Service holds a special place for me. The case studies that you see in the booklet, the people that the service allows to access farming that otherwise may not. I recently was interviewed by the Slovenian Young Farmers Organisation about the service, who are starting in the formulation of their own service based on Exchequer funding, modelled on the service in Ireland and also that of Northern Ireland. The feedback from them was unanimous, that it's a unique and brilliant, one-of-a-kind initiative. As my time as Macra President finishes in the next number of weeks, I look forward to the service growing and thriving. I haven't ever hidden my passion for the service and lobbied hard on its development and growth over the past 7 years. However, as the report from UCD outlines in its 5 recommendations, funding will be needed, and I appeal to the Minister once more to deliver on his commitment and promise to look favourably on our proposal, to link us in and embed us with Teagasc and all the other stakeholders within our sector. I have been asked, and some have asked me, to be patient over the past 2 years, to turn down the revs, and that you don't need to agitate the tank every day. I think that we've waited 16 months for this to be delivered, and I think it has demonstrated a small amount of patience. Finally, I want to thank you all for attending today, to UCD through Karina's leadership, to our sponsors and co-ops throughout Ireland, to Michael and to FBD for supporting us, and to the people that make this service as great as it is. Today would also not happen without the work of Austin and his team, to Patrick, to Mick, and indeed for Mick, our own CEO in Macra, and his team for the commitment and dedication to not just the land mobility service but also to Macra. And I want to leave you on the words of Franklin D. Roosevelt, who said, "We cannot always build the future for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future." Let's change the makeup of our GAA team. Thank you.